Today I had a couple of things to don't need that, to kind of just like talk about a little bit. And one of the funniest things that I kind of want to touch on at the beginning of the stream is how good guard is if we disregard certain units. As I've been keeping track of everyone, so this is all 98 players who have played guard over the past 3 weeks, 3 weekends of GT play. But the other thing about this is it's tracking how did they do, what was their win percent, and whether they took indirect, Castellans, or super heavies. Now, I could probably also expand this, to be entirely honest, um, to include Krieg command squads. Is another unit that I see a lot that just shouldn't be taken in a lot of competitive stuff. And it's another unit I see a lot that's just like not very good. Tempestus Scions, maybe? But even that one's like questionable. They're like borderline. If there are any like other units to think about, like you could probably do it of units that are just like these aren't very good, but people might think they are. And so the biggest things about this is I've been just trying to keep track of like what the win rates have been for the past couple of weeks. And one of the big reasons for this is I keep seeing people on like Discord, Reddit, other parts of the internet who are like, oh, these units are so good. You got to keep them in your list. You got to try and figure out what to do with them. You got to make sure you have them. They are a pillar of the guard list building. And it's quite simply not true. Regular Dorns, you could probably track it. Like, honestly, the big thing for me when I'm looking at this is, are you taking a unit that is now making the rest of your army? Yeah, okay, random account. LR Leave Rust tank commanders would probably be a great example of this. However, I did not do this, and I want you to know right now, this was all manual. I had to go in individually in order to go look at all their lists. So I could do this again. I'm probably not going to, but like I might start adding new columns for things, just kind of track like some of the units that people kind of know are bad that probably shouldn't be in our games. But anyway, so the big thing here is trying to keep track of like, one, did you take indirect at all? So that's what this column is. If there's a 1 here, it's a true, and a 0 is a false, right? Ones just mean you have at least one indirect piece, and then these numbers are all how many of them did you include. And then Castellans, I think this is how many. Let's see if I can find Ed Watts. Yeah, there's Ed Watts right there. And then super heavies is how many of them did you include. So one of my favorite lists is this one that had 4 super heavies. Patrick, yes, this is only for GTs. I don't really, one, there's just too many RTTs for me to want to track, and two, I know a lot of people just bring random junk to RTTs just to test. I bring a lot of stuff to RTTs just to test. So, they aren't, the expectation is lower at a lot of RTTs in terms of like how seriously people are taking it. Anyway, so these are everybody who's gone to a 5 or more round event over the past 3 weeks, and a couple of interesting numbers pop out. Okay, all right, we've gotten the math done. We're back on track here. Okay, so basically what I've been doing is trying to figure out if you only look at guard lists that include the good units. Is basically like the simplest version of what I was trying to do here. What actually comes out? And so a couple of things come out very quickly. So firstly, we have our overall win rate over the past 3 weeks of about 45%. And depending on what your sample is, you're going to get a slightly different number here. So if you are looking at I think StatCheck only includes events that have at least 25 players. I don't think Meta Monday has the same restriction. I will look at anything that has 5 rounds and is not a league. So something that is played over the long period of time, because you don't have the same kind of list control. And then the other thing, I don't look at teams events, because teams events do not any unit can be good in a team's context simply because it is it's different, right? Like if you just say I'm not going to play against those kind of armies, you can build your list very differently. And so if you're like I'm only going to play against Marines, obviously it's going to be a little bit better. So overall in singles, Guard had a 45% win rate over the past 3 weekends. However, the overall win rate for Guard, so this is anything that had at least one indirect piece in the list at all. Yes. Okay. So yeah, we're still like 45% win rate overall. However, there are a couple of things that automatically come out and are very interesting when you start looking at what the actual win rates are. So firstly, I just wanted to take a look at super heavies. If you have at least one super heavy in your army, the people who are bringing at least one super heavy had a combined win rate of 25.53%. They were winning about a quarter of their games. That means there are more people going 1 and 5 than are going 2 or 1 and 4 than are going 2 and 3. See, the worst part, Thomas, is I actually have like a certificate somewhere that says that I am an expert with Excel. I put that on my resume as well as someone who's like, I have a certificate from Microsoft that is like, this guy knows what's up when it comes to Excel. But anyway, yeah, super heavies, really bad. 25% win rate. Well, we'll be generous to call it 26% win rate is not good. This number should not be this low. Realistically, I have... So the one GT that I have recorded that I took a super heavy to, I ended up going 3 and 2. And then I also took it to CTC, which was a big 5-man teams event, and I also went 4 and 0 there. In theory, I went 5 and 0 because one of them was a bye. But you know, a long time ago. But anyway, super heavies, really bad win rate overall. About 1 in 4 games. So you're going 1 and 3, maybe 1 and 4, 2 and 3, something like that. The other unit that I thought was interesting was the Castellan. And one of the big things for the Castellan is it's actually like playable in Recon. It's actually pretty good in Recon. If you watch the interview that I did with Wesley St. Hines, you'll know that it becomes a lot better in Recon. And one of these games, or one of these entries, was the one from Ed Watts, where he had 3 Castellans, which is here. So I'm just going to delete that really quick. And you can see that, because he was playing Recon, it goes down to 42.5%. If you include Ed Watts, who's, again, a fantastic player and also playing Recon, so it doesn't quite count, you're up to 45%, which is about the same as our overall. So, like, it's not the worst thing ever, but just don't play it outside of Recon. The other big one that we want to take a look at is this number here. This is the win rate for players who took at least one indirect at all. It can be 1 unit of mortars, it can be a basilisk, it can be 3 artillery teams. It doesn't matter if you had at least one indirect piece in your list. You get put into this right here. Indirect is not good for the Guard. So what you can generally see here is it's just already, if you just compare it to like overall win rate, it's already about 5% worse. 39% compared to about 45%. Like, you're losing an extra half a game on average by taking indirect. And as we can also see, if you just compare the win rate with no indirect to, or with indirect to just like our win rate including, or that does not have any indirect at all, it's a 10% difference. I think the biggest thing to kind of take away from all of this is just that indirect is really bad for our win rate. Mortars are not quite as bad because they're just like, you just kind of use them to screen, like they're just really cheap. The basilisk is also not quite as bad as the rest. In fact, we have like a couple of people who actually had like winning records. This guy went 4 and 2 with a basilisk. This guy went 3 and 2 with a basilisk, but he's also 18th. Who is this? I'm gonna dox them. Roger Boyra. Oh, he's one of the top players out in Iberia, I think. I'm pretty sure he's like one of the top Spanish players. And then this one, 3 and 2. This one actually has a lot of indirect. Who is this one? So the biggest offenders are artillery and the field awareness battery. If you're taking these, you probably shouldn't. They're definitely There are definitely people who are encouraging them, but they are not worth your time. You need to be doing a very specific purpose with them. They're probably okay in teams. Anyway, yeah. So I've just been keeping track of this. Yeah, indirect not good. Castellan not good. Super heavy really not good. Okay.